golden brother got my fiancée, Karen, pregnant a month before our wedding. My family sided with them, forced me to let them move in together. Just 1 month before I turned 30, 5 years ago, I was meant to be married to my fiancée. She had been having an affair with my brother, and the only reason they were even coming clean to me about it was that she was pregnant and wanted to keep the child. Apparently ever after Karen and I had been engaged, my ex-fiancée Karen, 30 female, and brother Chris, 33 male, had been sleeping together. Since Karen and I had been together since our junior year of high school and had been together through college as well, getting engaged was clearly the next step, given we had been together for so long. Still, she chose to cheat on me with my brother within that once we were engaged. The only reason that even happened was that my brother had told her he had always had feelings for her and he just felt he had to let her know because she was about to get married, after which he could no longer tell her anything about these things. Then she realized she had also been progressively catching emotions for him. She had stayed with me since she seemed unsure about him. Apparently, they would even flirt behind my back sometimes at family parties and whatnot. 5 years ago, just a few months before my wedding, I got to know all these things. Karen was in love with Chris and they were having a baby together, so she could no longer get married to me. She sat me down alone with my parents and told me. That day, I had been quite irate about it. It almost seemed unbelievable to tell Karen that I wanted her to return home with me and call off this connection, whatever it was with Chris. Ultimately, though, Chris and Karen were going to be together and my mother had made it rather clear that nothing of the such was going to happen. I just had to accept this as it was their choice. That my mother was endorsing anything like this astounds me even now. At least my dad had the decency to look ashamed and try to comfort me, but my mother was clearly supporting this and even told me that if I had a problem with it, I could keep it to myself since Karen was pregnant and I had no right to disturb her in such a delicate state. Just delighted about finally having a grandson in the family, my mother battled fiercely to defend what was going on and hardly gave a damn about what I was going through. Following the incident that day, Karen moved in with my family as her own parents stopped wanting to talk to her once she told them the truth. We clearly had to call off the wedding, and my parents paid for it, so I was free from worrying about any of that either. But I was kicked out of the family as I avoided talking to them. For the past 5 years, we have had absolutely none of any contact. My father was the only one who had even tried to attempt and get in touch with me, but I was not even bothered in conversing with him. Thus there has been radio silence from their end when I severed contact with them. Given Karen and I had been together for a really lengthy period, it took me a very long time to recover what had happened to me. It took a lot of therapy to get over it as I had loved her really. Even today, I wouldn't say that I am totally over it, but I am handling it. Though the rest of the family had maintained contact with me, I did find out from them that she had a boy with my brother and just 1 month after she delivered her son, a paternity test verified that it was my brother's child and not mine. They ended up being married and have been together for the past 5 years, hence there was no need to get in touch with me afterwards either. My mother contacted me out of the blue about 1 week earlier, which surprised me as she had been the one most in favor of Karen and Chris, like in an unhealthy way. I had assumed everything was going for them. Curiosity drove me to thus decide to call her back after she emailed me stating she had to talk to me urgently. She gave some quite sad news to me while crying when I phoned her, and I discovered that my brother had sadly been in a rather serious accident. It was an hit-and-run case. Sadly, the impact caused him to fall into a coma, so it was uncertain how long it would take for him to wake up. This had happened last week itself, and 3 days later the doctors reported that things were really bad. My mother has chosen just now to phone me to let me know about it. I would have been ready to visit her and be there for the family at first since, in spite of all, I believe this to be a major deal and it would have been a reasonable enough expectation for me. I do not want to turn my back on someone who is in such a horrible state. My mother immediately turned completely another way and declared she wanted me to be there for Karen and my nephew. Then mother informed me she now expected me to be there for them in my brother's place. I had no idea what that meant either. She informed me that because Chris was essentially not even there anymore, I had to be there for Karen and her child in any manner whatsoever. When I asked her to explain, she expected me to step in and live with them so I would be able to look after them, not only financially. She claimed she would have taken them in personally, but she was not getting any younger and maintaining all of them would be too much effort. She anticipated me to make a decision on the phone call itself, hence she was phoning to inform me. I clearly lost my cool as she avoided me for 5 years and now wanted me to do something so significant when she was finally speaking to me. Although Karen and her son were all on their own right now and she needed someone to be there for them, I could see that someone from their close family would have been better suited for her than me, someone she had betrayed and then not even bothered to apologize to. Naturally, I informed my mother right away that I was not going to do such a thing and that she was stupid for even asking me to say yes to that. Then she began fighting with me over the phone, and I had little time to spend. I immediately hung up and then blocked her once more as I was already somewhat annoyed and I wanted not to destroy my mood while talking to her even more. After that, I tried to go about my daily business but I couldn't stop thinking about what Chris and Karen were going through. I felt terrible for them. That was really strange, thus I clearly was not going to follow what my mother had asked me to and substitute my brother for their family. He was still alive, he had simply fallen into a coma, but it was not as though he had died already, she was acting as though he had disappeared. I believed that my father would be more rational than my mother, so later that day I chose to phone him instead as I was feeling very lightheaded over this whole situation. After 5 years of no communication, it was somewhat strange to talk to him. Nonetheless, following some brief conversation, I asked Chris how he was doing and he informed me that things were not looking very good right now. Then I anticipated him to have some logical insight after telling him about the earlier that day talk I had with my mother. Rather, he also remarked, my mother was correct to have expected from me. Since my dad was often the more level-headed one of both my parents, and suddenly even he was saying such strange things, that truly caught me off guard. He told me that Karen and I have had a history regardless and that I am also part of the family when I asked him if he truly meant that. Whether our connection over the past 5 years has been different, at last I am blood, if they can rely on anyone to defend the family, it should be me. The expectations of my mother are not wholly unreasonable. That truly sent me for a curveball, and right now I honestly have no idea what to do. I have been avoiding talking to anyone from my family, even my other cousins, for the past week since I am simply worried that someone would bring this up with me and subsequently I will have to justify my choices. Since I'm not stepping up for my family and I know they truly need me, if not financially then at least emotionally, I also sort of feel like the bad guy here. I know that what my mother is asking of me is somewhat strange and irrational, but at the same time I feel awful for rejecting it straightforwardly since I just honestly have no idea what to do. I just feel so strange about this whole thing, so I haven't even gone down to see my brother at the hospital. Since all of this is so intimate, neither have I been able to discuss this with any of my friends. Since my wedding was called off, they know how things have been between my family and me, but this is something a little more unusual than that, honestly, and that's why right now I'm uploading this to Reddit. Whether it's friends or relatives, everyone will have some form of biased view, hence, I truly believe that I should have some objective viewpoints on what I should accomplish. I truly need guidance as, without a workable answer to all of this shortly, I fear losing my sanity. Since it has taken me a lot to get out of, I really feel like I am returning to that time of my life when I was always thinking about Karen and Chris right after I discovered she had been cheating on me. Thus, whatever anyone has to say, kindly let me know so I may at least avert myself from the harshness of the viewpoint. Am I the asshole then for not visiting my family and supporting them following my brother's accident? Update 1. Hey buddies, I decided not to visit my family right now. Right now, it is rather too much for me. Just because of the things my parents were saying to me, I didn't even understand just how terrible my anxiety had been in the last week, but, right now I'm back on my anti-anxiety meds and attempting to handle everything. In the comments area of my initial article and even individually in my DMs to let me know they are there for me and that I am not alone, many have showered me with love and support. I am especially quite happy for this. Thus, I really appreciate it. Since I truly don't believe I could handle all of this on my own and they have also told me I can talk to them whenever I need to, just to get it all off my chest. I have also confided in a few of my close friends about what's going on. They have also advised me that, at this point, my choice to stay away from them is the appropriate one to make as, regardless of what anyone else is going through in life, I have to put myself first. Chris and my family have always put themselves first, hence I should likewise do the same. To be honest, I hardly believe I should be there for them emotionally either. They can each handle this on their own, they have each other. After the wedding was called off and I discovered I had been betrayed, I was the one with absolutely nowhere for my immediate family to be there for me. Though he was the one who had been in the wrong and should have been the one lost from the family, my own parents had turned against me and had chosen my brother over me. Still, that's only past, I'm attempting to go on from that. If I go back to them once more, I will not be able to properly accomplish that, hence, I have blocked all of them once more and am going to keep to my decision of not interacting with them. I truly regret what happened to my brother, but I hope he recovers quickly as, no matter what he has done, I cannot be the person wishing anything negative to happen to anyone. I thus hope things work out for them, but I am out of here. Right now, I'm simply concentrating on my own mental health, although, given my handling of this, I'm thinking about returning to therapy. And the way these things my parents said went under my skin, I truly believe I should see a professional since I don't think I am handling all of this as well as I should be and all those old emotions are resurfacing once more. I therefore simply now am looking out for myself. Update 2. I therefore learned from a few relatives that my brother's situation is still really severe and not exhibiting any improvement. He still resides in the hospital, approximately 2 weeks have passed. Though I feel horrible for the family as things are so bad for them, there is not much I could do. Apart from myself, everyone who knows my family has dropped by the hospital at least once in the previous 2 weeks to see my brother and express their sympathies for the horrible event that has happened. I would have done it, but then I also discovered via my relatives that my parents had been disparaging me to anyone who had been visiting them and had been projecting me as a terrible man. They seemed to be telling everyone they begged me to see them and be there for the family, but I turned them down, saying things like this was retribution for screwing me over 5 years back and that my brother deserved this. For the record's sake, I clearly said nothing of the kind. Since I am usually a kind person to everyone, some of them contacted me to verify whether this was accurate or not since it did not seem like anything I would say. I clearly told them I did not say these things and that my parents were fabricating it to make it seem like I was a horrible person, most likely in response from me, or maybe simply because that is the type of people my parents are. Especially after already having screwed up my life once, I was just rather let down that people were saying such things about me and fabricating stories to present me as a nasty guy. I'm just happy that my relatives asked me about it since, if they had simply decided to trust my parents, then I doubt anyone in the family would have been talking to me at this stage either. I hadn't spoken to my parents for 5 years, but the rest of my family, my aunts and uncles, and naturally my cousins had been there for me. I think my parents could not bear that, so they decided to try and screw that off for me as well. I truly did not want to lose that. Simply said, I find it incomprehensible that people despise me so strongly. I have literally not done anything to them. Although my parents have always had a soft spot for my brother right from our childhood, and my brother and I have never been very close, this seems needless and overbearing. Update 3. Hi, I wrote an update 2 days ago, and today my mother decided to get in touch once more. She had nowhere else to go except pay me a visit to speak with me as I had blocked them everywhere. She was already there waiting for me when I returned home from work. I was simply so tired from work already, that I really didn't even feel like chatting to her. I nearly decided I was going to get back into the car, but she noticed me and I had to go talk to her. I decided to talk to her in the front yard since I wanted no intention of letting her into my house since then it would be quite difficult to get rid of her. That proved to be rather bad for me since finally she started screaming at me and that attracted the notice of the neighbors as well. The discussion began smoothly enough, she merely struck some polite small talk with me and I had to respond. Then I couldn't help myself and started asking her why she had been fabricating lies about me meant to paint me as a nasty man. I told her that although I honestly wanted to go on with my life, they were making even that incredibly difficult for me. I had never intended anything negative to happen to my family, even after they had treated me like this. I had been suppressing these emotions for a very long time, hence when I saw her it simply burst out of me and I couldn't control myself. Ultimately, I just told her that since they had never treated me the same way and I was quite let down by their actions, it was quite difficult for me to consider them as a family after all that had transpired. Therefore, whatever it is she wanted to discuss with me, it could be done later as I recently returned home from work and I simply felt not in the mood to argue or talk to anyone about anything too emotionally taxing. She had been listening to me gently up until that point, but she became rather agitated and claimed that she was just here to apologize for the very same things I had described when I informed her that I wanted not to talk to her at that moment. She claimed that she and my father had been thinking clearly and that initially my reaction had infuriated them since I had not stood up for my family or even visited my brother when he was in the hospital. But then they understood they hadn't exactly treated me well in the prior 5 years and that I was clearly extremely unhappy about that even now, and that's why I wasn't visiting. She came here to try to sort things out amongst us since she thought the family should keep together for now only for emotional stability. She changed her plan and decided she would yell at me instead when I informed her I wanted no conversation with her. She advised me that evidently I should just be happy that I still have a family since, following the way I had responded upon learning of my brother's injury, she had half a mind to cut me off and ensure that the rest of my relatives likewise ceased interacting with me permanently. She clarified that apparently, she thought my reaction had not been sad enough when I had found out about my brother's accident as I did not know what she was talking about. She stated she had felt that when I had told her of my brother's accident, she had expected me to at least exhibit some emotion, but on the phone call I had just sounded extremely apathetic. I don't even know what she had expected of me. Clearly, whatever our personal relationships are, some news like that was absolutely going to impact me, and it has. In spite of our personal relationships, as I have already indicated, I do not want it upon anyone, including my family. I was therefore quite offended learning about his accident. Perhaps that had not shown up on the phone calls since she could not see my face, but her arguments were just entirely unfounded and irrational. She even said that my brother's absence for Karen and my nephew had shown how little I valued the family, as I had not been there for them. She was merely fabricating stories to support their behavior, and I believe that my parents have started to lose their wits as these things are utterly strange and superfluous. Nevertheless, I lost even more interest in talking to her after she started screaming at me, so I just decided to ask her to leave from within my house. I thus unlocked the entrance to my house after some time and entered while she was still screaming at me. She followed me inside, but I closed the door in her face and advised her to leave since I was really offended and wanted no further interaction with her. She argued with me, but I told her I would call the police. That's when she departed at last, but not before she cursed me out and declared I would shortly suffer consequences. I'm not even interested in learning what that entails. I'm not sure what it entails. I simply want to unwind and forward my life. Update 4. Hi there, following the accident 26 days ago, my family at last received some positive news to deliver today to all. They did not personally tell me about it, obviously. I learned about it from my relatives. The good news is that my brother is at last exhibiting some improvement. That's a positive indication since he is reacting better and out of a coma is not. The last month has been quite trying for everyone as a family, including me, in spite of the fact that I am not even part of the family anymore and have been thrown out long ago. Hence, I truly hope he is able to make it and that he just improves from this point ahead. But the way my parents have been following my life in the past 26 days truly shows me that they are unhinged, and I believe they were merely venting their frustrations on me following my most recent contact with my mother, which I discussed in my last report. She didn't get back to me for a few days, but my father called me up to scream at me instead. I could not tell that it was him since he used a different number from the one he typically uses. When I answered the call, he started screaming at me almost immediately so that I wouldn't even have time to hang up. He was quite smart when I knew it was him. To get the chance to yell at me instead, he aimed to catch me off guard. Knowing that I would be asleep, he chose to contact me at 5 o'clock in the morning instead of at any other regular hour of the day. I would have to wake up to answer his call. My brain would be muddled. A few days after my conversation with my mother, my dad contacted me at 5 o'clock in the morning. Following almost 3 phone calls, I at last answered the 4th one. He began screaming at me right away about what an unappreciated child I was and how he wanted I never to have been born. I was a horrible human being for not even showing up to visit my brother in the hospital when he was suffering so much and not being there for the family. Thus he stated he was going to make sure the rest of the family never spoke to me again. I was still processing everything, thus he was the one who hung up after shouting for over 5 minutes. By the time I was done with everything, he had hung the phone and banned me. It wasn't very hilarious at the time it happened, but now I find it really humorous since my parents are simply so determined to make me appear like a bad guy and yell at me for meaningless actions. For these exact reasons, they are ready to venture into such extremities. I have indicated earlier that I think they were venting their annoyance on me. They simply needed to get away from court, and as usual I had to be there for the family, but it's okay as my father failed to get the rest of the family turned against me. They are aware of what happened 5 years ago and of my truthfulness. Still, now that my brother's condition is getting better, I only hope they leave my rear and concentrate on him. Update 5. Hi there, returning here after nearly 3 years seemed strange. Since then, so much has gone forward, generally for the better. Right now, I'm in Germany working. Having spent the past year and a half here, I have also started seeing someone. It's been lovely, truly. My girlfriend and I have been together for the past 8 months. To be honest, I have had absolutely no contact with my family during the past 3 years. It has also been pleasant. That's different, as I have stayed in touch with my decent relatives to differentiate from others. Right now, my brother is totally well. He survived the accident, and although it took him some time to recover, he is doing great right now. After my brother had begun to recover, Karen had come to see me to apologize for all that had transpired in the past, but I told her at this point an apology was simply not needed. On behalf of her and my brother, she had come to see me with a bouquet to apologize after everyone had realized I was heading to Germany for business. Though he was too embarrassed of the events 8 years ago, my brother could not come see me. Honestly, it made little difference now. That aspect was true. I simply told them I forgave them and didn't even care. I was on greater things, so I didn't really care. I was living my life. I have been here since then. My parents no longer interact with me, and I am quite glad about this, as I would never let that ever happen once more under any conditions. At last, I am glad. Anyway, I must get back to my life now that you people are all caught up. Thank you so much to the folks who showed me so much love and care when I was blogging here, and also kept asking about me in the comments and everything, even after I had stopped publishing. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next drama-filled episode.